All right, next up, please welcome with a talk called A Call to Healing, Non-Locality in the New Era of Functional Medicine. Please welcome Dr. Shawn Tassone.
Afternoon. I want to take you back to 1881, party time. President James Garfield walking into a talk he was going to give on his way to Williams College, and he was shot twice, once in the shoulder and then in the back. The second bullet lodged by his splenic artery behind his pancreas. At the time, the medicine that had evolved, the doctors that were trying to help President Garfield were using their unsterilized fingers trying to dig the bullet out of his back. Two individuals that were at his bedside that came to him because the World's Fair was also in the area were Joseph Lister and Alexander Graham Bell. And Bell had tried to, at the time, invent the first metal detector. Lister had just come up with this crazy idea that if we sterilized things, we wouldn't get infections. At the time, medicine was poo-pooing him. And the doctors for President Garfield blew him off and said, no, you can't, we're not going to do that. So they continued to dig their nasty fingers into his back, much to his dismay, I'm sure. And he ended up dying 60 days later or so from massive infection. And so medicine at that time killed him. My point here is, what is the evolution of medicine? Well, what we find is that evolution medicine doesn't evolve in a vacuum. It evolves socially with everything else. So Era 1 medicine, which is mechanical medicine, antibiotics, surgeries, that evolved from tragedies, from world wars, from the Civil War. You look at Era 2 medicine, what are we all into now? Well, mind and body. We understood that finally that the mind it can be stressed, can cause hypertension, can cause other things in the body, and we started to understand this. So now we talk about meditation, we talk about yoga. But what's in the future? How is medicine going to evolve? Well, think about this. Mind, body, what was happening in society at the same time? We were talking on phones. Radio waves were going through the air. TVs were happening. So it was only natural for medicine to follow the same space. Well, what are we doing now? Anybody that has a kid that's 12 years old can see a cell phone. It's instantaneous. It happens immediately. And I majored in math in college because I'm super geeky. And there's something called the compression of S-curves. As the S's compress, they eventually get close enough and they speed up, okay? So we had the Iron Age and the Bronze Age and the Industrial Age, and now we're moving into this age where things are happening so quickly that this S-curve is hitting the shore and it's gonna crash. And that crash is gonna be Era 3 medicine, and we're starting to see this now. Era 3 medicine is gonna be non-local. It's going to be across the world healing another person. It's going to be unmediated, unmitigated, and instantaneous. And what that means is it's not causal, it's acausal. There's no cause, it just happens. It's unmitigated, it doesn't disperse over time and space, and it's immediate. Albert Einstein called this spooky science. You can have two electrons from the same atom on different sides of the world. When one moves, the other one will move at the exact same time. We already know this happens. Jeannie Achterberg, a mentor of mine, did a study in Hawaii where healers, kahunas, in a separate room of the hospital and a patient in a functional MRI machine, when these healers would send healing energy to these patients, the same part of their brains would light up at the exact same time. We know this is coming, it's happening. We know that Randolph Bird in the 80s did a study on cardiac care unit patients. Patients that were prayed for, which to me is just positive intention, got out of the CCU 2 days earlier than those patients that weren't prayed for, and neither of those populations knew they were being prayed for. Something here is going on. And my challenge to people like James Maskell and Harry Massey and all the others that are talking today is, let's have a conference. Let's have an energetic conference where we can move this evolution of medicine forward. Rather than complaining and talking about all the things that we don't have, let's look to the future and not be James Garfield's physicians. In closing, I just want to say that Max Planck has famously said, science evolves one funeral at a time. And I don't mean that to be negative, but let's not be the funeral. Thank you very much.
Awesome, dude.